Hello, everyone out there in radio land. It is once again that time of the week where we come onto your radio dial and we tell y'all what is really going on here in the city of Kalamazoo, the state of Michigan, the so-called United States, and the rest of the world from a working class perspective. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. As always, following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. It's the first live show we've done in close to a month. It's great to be back here in the studio. It's great to be talking to y'all live. It's a very auspicious day to do it. We've got 1 week until the Michigan primaries. And we are going to be spending most of the show talking about that. My co-host Lawrence will be joining us around 12:30, and we are going to deep dive into all of the pertinent races. I think first we've got some articles discussing some things that are going on here around the state, and I actually think this first one really speaks to kind of the stakes of this primary election we have coming up, and particularly around what these candidates who are running and asking for your vote, what they're going to do about the abysmal state of healthcare in the state of Michigan and the United States more broadly. So we're starting, this is an article from the World Socialist website. It was published on July 24th. Sturgis Hospital closes in rural Michigan. And I'm just going to kind of go through the article today and kind of comment as we go along. On June 19th, nurses, doctors, and support staff walked out of Sturgis Hospital for the last time. Waiting to greet them was a crowd of supportive community members and retired former hospital workers, all gathered to mourn the loss of the city's only hospital. After being open for more than a century, the hospital closed with less than 3 days' notice, citing financial challenges. I honestly thought that I'd wake up and this was a bad dream. I even told my husband that maybe I'll wake up in the morning and this won't be true, said 38-year-old nurse Tina Johnston to Wood TV. This is the fourth rural hospital closure of 2026, following 23 last year and 25 in 2024. The destruction of rural healthcare flows from a political and economic system in crisis, where an unprecedented concentration of wealth and power can be maintained only by plundering social resources for private profits and militarism. On social media, nurse Caitlin Inzaldow posted, "When I started here, I never imagined that one day I would be saying goodbye. In truth, I had hoped to spend the rest of my career here. Sturgis Hospital has always been more than just a workplace. It has been a family." The 300 workers at the hospital were notified the same day as the general public, giving them 3 days to search for a job before being laid off without income and without health insurance. Past workers are also affected, as the hospital has been behind on payments or paying out retirement benefits. In the last decade, the hospital has already cut 140 positions. In 2018, it closed the birthing and hospice programs. In 2023, it closed all 84 inpatient beds to become the state's first rural emergency hospital. Now the remaining emergency department, endoscopy, surgery, laboratory, medical imaging, physical therapy, cardiac rehabilitation, and outpatient clinics are also closed. One resident captured the dangerous situation residents and workers in Sturgis now face in a post the evening the closure was announced. "My husband experienced a fall tonight, resulting in a head injury, and I immediately called 911. The Sturgis Fire Department responded rapidly and transported him to Sturgis Hospital. What will be our course of action when we don't have 20 minutes to reach LaGrange or Three Rivers?" The closest hospital is located in LaGrange, Indiana, making it out of network and thus unaffordable for many Michigan insurance plans. Again, this speaks to the absurdity of the American healthcare system. In an emergency situation, every second counts when trying to save a life. But your insurance might not cover it because you have to cross a state line. It's absurd. It's crazy. It's why there are so many progressives and socialists out there running on uh, medical care because it's an absolute mess. Anyway, Sturgis is a small working class city of 11,000 in southern Michigan, located about halfway between Chicago and Detroit. While three-quarters of the county's land is used for farming, only 3% of jobs are in agriculture. By far the largest industry in the city and county is manufacturing, with 41% of jobs. Healthcare is second at 15% in the city. So just again, imagine 15% of your town's economy is wiped out overnight. And I mean, that's obviously not even to speak of just it's healthcare, so it's an essential service. But yeah, if you want to think of it in money terms, there you go. One of the few companies in Sturgis with more workers than the hospital is Abbott Nutrition, which operates one of the largest infant formula plants in the country. The same subordination of social needs to profit that led to the hospital closing also led to underinvestment and unsafe conditions at Abbott, culminating in tainted formula that sickened children, killing two, prompting a forced shutdown and nationwide shortage in 2022. Longtime listeners probably remember that story that's covering it. Sturgis Hospital is the latest casualty of decades of compounding policy changes and budget cuts, championed by both Democrats and Republicans, subordinating healthcare to private profit and militarism. Today, that process is being sharply intensified by the Trump administration. The World Socialist website called last year's One Big Beautiful Bill a declaration of war on healthcare. And that really is not hyperbole. It will slash Medicaid by more than $900 billion over the next decade, trigger nearly $500 billion in automatic health Medicaid or Medicare cuts, and in enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies. The bill also cuts $187 billion by 2034 from the SNAP program, i.e., food stamps, by adding work and reporting requirements that have already caused more than 4 million people to lose benefits, making them less able to afford insurance and treatment. Trump has openly linked these attacks to increased military spending, which is planned to increase to $1.5 trillion next year. Speaking at a White House Easter lunch, he declared, "We're fighting wars," arguing that the government could not pay daycare, Medicaid, or Medicare while prioritizing military protection. Yes, of course, we got to protect, Israel from Iran, and got to protect the Epstein class from consequences. So yeah, that does cost a lot of money. He's not wrong. The attack comes at a time when healthcare infrastructure has already been significantly degraded. According to the World Bank, the number of hospital beds per sorry, I just, just getting back. I'm still trying to figure out how to make my tongue work. Okay. All right. Anyway, according to the World Bank, the number of hospital beds per 1,000 people in the U.S. was 9.2 in 1960. And if you sit down, if you're not sitting down, by 2022, it declined by more than 2/3 to 2.7. Now, when we talk about the evisceration of the American social safety net, which was never even really up to par with either some of the Soviet states or even Western European capitalist countries, it really we really need to emphasize just how sharp that decline is. 1960, 9.2 beds per 1,000 people. As of 3 years ago, that is 2.7 hospital beds per 1,000 people. I think we can all feel it, even in my short lifetime. Wait times at hospitals have gotten way, way longer. The emergency room is always arduous. And of course, they do not have sufficient staffing, which means the medical care you do get are from workers who are typically working heroic amounts of overtime in order to provide you care. Sturgis Hospital is one of 109 rural hospitals in the United States that have been shuttered since 2005. An additional 88 have closed their inpatient and emergency care beds while maintaining some type of healthcare services. According to a 2025 report from the Center for Healthcare Quality and Payment Reform, an additional 700 rural hospitals are at risk of closing, 300 of which are at immediate risk. The structural causes include higher costs due to remote locations, a lack of bargaining power with insurance companies to secure correspondingly higher compensation, a larger proportion of patients on Medicare, and a lack of revenue from sources other than grants, donations, and municipal tax collections. In Michigan alone, there are 10 hospitals at risk of closing and 3 at risk of immediate closure. The death of Sturgis Hospital illustrates the broader crisis in healthcare. Sturgis began to have public financial challenges in 2008, with 2 years of operating losses and a $1 million net reduction in income due to a 30% increase in Medicaid volume and a 10% decrease in the payment rate. Over the next decade and a half, Sturgis entered various partnerships with nonprofits and private equity groups and relied on emergency funds, partial closures, and layoffs to stay afloat amidst a growing burden of debt and rent payments. Managing the hospital through its expansion, privatization, and preparation for acquisition was Quorum Health Resources, a private equity firm. Oh boy, it's again. Anytime we're bringing up private equity firms, it's like these are the vultures of the American capitalist system. They go in, extract profit, shut it down. To hear equity firms being involved with healthcare, it is a distinctly American phenomenon, and it just also again it just underlines the point of how, again, our medical care is at the mercy of capitalists and capitalism. Excuse me. It is the largest healthcare provider in the country after having purchased 200 distressed rural hospitals by 2014. The city first contracted with Quorum in 2001, reportedly to benefit from its larger buying power in a consolidating healthcare industry and to help attract a qualified CEO and CFO. The relationship was ended in 2018 in anticipation of acquisition. That year, the city paid Quorum $755,000. The hospital CEO and CFO, who led the spinoff from the city and prepared for acquisition, received their salaries from Quorum. In 2018, these were $268,000 and $170,000, respectively, compared to a median household income of $40,392 in Sturgis. Private equity firms often accelerate rural hospital closures by acquiring struggling hospitals, loading them with debt, extracting profits through asset sales and dividend payments, and cutting staffing to unsafe levels. Kind of what I just mentioned earlier, talking about just this is how it pans out when you're waiting in the emergency room. Because rural hospitals already operate on thin margins, these practices can quickly push them into insolvency. In 2023, the city approved an agreement with for-profit healthcare management firm Asker Corporation to eliminate $8.5 million in remaining rent obligations in exchange for a $3 million payment, clearing the way for a potential acquisition and promising continued financial support and expanded services. However, the sale was never approved or the hospital closed in 2026, and Asker appears to have withdrawn its financial support. The hospital's 2024 Medicaid filing reported $15.4 million in revenue against $23.2 million in expenses, a nearly $8 million deficit, and negative net assets of $48 million. The Michigan Nurses Association, which has represented nurses in Sturgis Hospital for 40 years, responded to the closure with a lawsuit filed on July 10th. Accepting the hospital closure without protest, the lawsuit appeals to the court to require the hospital provide 60 days of pay and benefits to laid off nurses, as required by federal law, as well as attorney fees. The closure of Sturgis Hospital is a social crime that puts the lives of thousands in the community at risk. The closure of hospitals amidst an ongoing pandemic that has killed over 30 million people and disabled over 400 million with long COVID is a damning indictment of capitalism's indifference to human life. This is not incompetence. It is the social crime of placing private wealth above public health, and will end only when the working class takes control of medicine on the basis of human need and not profit. That was from the World Socialist website. It was written by Riley Ward, published on July 24th. Sturgis Hospital closes in rural Michigan. We're going to take a quick little break. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. You can also find us online at Media Cyphers on Facebook, YouTube, or the Media Cyphers Kalamazoo podcast. You can find on most podcasting apps. Keep it unlocked. This is Media Cyphers, your source for political revolution. All right. Yeah, sorry. Hey, everybody, we're back. Y'all listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. I want to pivot this different part of the state, but it is a race that we're going to be watching pretty closely next week. It's in Michigan's seventh congressional district, which is, I believe, to our north. Hold on, I'm going to bring a map up just so I'm not talking out of my butt. So, okay, yeah, that's right. So the seventh congressional district, that is to our northeast. That includes big chunks of uh, Eaton, Ingram, Livingston, Chesapeake, and Clinton not township, but county, sorry. Um, and, some of the prominent cities Lansing, that's probably the most high profile, of course, chunks of Oakland County as well. Um, William Lawrence is running a very progressive campaign to try to get that congressional seat. I've bumped into Lawrence many times, or William Lawrence many times through some of my work, either covering or working with We the People. Pretty solid fella. And Drop Site News just came out with a really important article about how we've heard a lot about how AIPAC money is propping up Haley Stevens, but we haven't heard too much about some of these other down ballot races, and they are using a lot of the same tactics against people like William Lawrence. So this is from Ryan Grimm and Julian Anderone. It's published on July 24th. The last minute $1 million ad spend against Will Lawrence is coming from a major pro Israel group. Democratic Majority for Israel is behind a $1 million effort to slow the momentum of populist candidate William Lawrence in the closing days of a three-way primary in mid-Michigan's 7th Congressional District, according to two sources familiar with the arrangement. Lawrence, a co-founder of the Sunrise Movement, is running primarily against data center buildouts in the district, but he's also made opposition to Israel's genocide in Gaza and the war in Iran core parts of his campaign. He has two well-funded centrist challengers. The winner will take on Republican incumbent Tom Barrett. DMFI is using a vehicle called Rolling Sea Action Fund PAC to move money into the race. It is unclear if DMFI is funding the ad buy with a transfer or whether DMFI donors were being directed to Rolling Sea. But Joel Wanger, DMFI's chief political officer, is organizing the effort. It's a PAC affiliated with the Congressional Black Caucus, but it is regularly used by big money interests as a pass through to cloak the true source of spending. Rolling Sea exists as a place to wash money, as one consultant working on the race put it to DropSite. The ad buy began with $899,000 being put behind it. DMFI, Rolling Sea, and CBC PAC did not respond to requests for comment. There's a rich irony in the nature of an attack ad from DMFI. The ad takes a shot at Lawrence for a 2024 podcast interview in which Lawrence talked about the way that the progressive momentum is often countered by a party establishment that co opts the moral legitimate legacy of the civil rights movement and repurposes it as a weapon in its own defense. A pro Israel PAC shrouding its activity in the veil of the Congressional Black Caucus would be exactly the kind of co optation that Lawrence was warning against. It is much easier in a Democratic primary to take on a pro Israel PAC directly than it is to take on the Congressional Black Caucus, which was the precise point Lawrence is being attacked for making. On the podcast Black Internationalism, Lawrence was being interviewed by host Curry Peterson Smith, who brought up President Joe Biden's commencement address at Morehouse College. The fact that Biden gave his commencement address at Morehouse College was pretty painful to watch. As a black person, as a black leftist, the Morehouse administration in such a crass way to lend its platform to Biden. Peterson Smith told Lawrence. It was just so cynical to say, we know that the majority of Americans want a ceasefire. We know that young people in particular are absolutely appalled by U.S. support for Israel. But This place is a kind of a crown jewel of historically black colleges. The fact that Biden can give this commencement address is a gesture towards the idea that this is a progressive administration, and so this is something for us to grapple with. Peterson Smith argued that Morehouse and Biden knew exactly what they were doing. We recognize the political significance of the moral authority and credibility of the Black freedom struggle. It's not just that we recognize that, but power recognizes that. Biden recognizes that, the White House recognizes that, and therefore that's a contested space that we need to show up to, he said. Lawrence agreed, but noted that as a white person, he wasn't the best to carry such a message, an insight borne out by the subsequent attacks on the comments that came next. It's not something I could talk too much about because I'm white and it's not my struggle. That being said, the extent to which the older generation of black political leadership are such a pillar, frankly, for establishment, capitalist, imperialist American power through their role as this kind of traditionalist establishment pillar of the Democratic Party, it's a big problem. It's a big problem for left politics in this country, and it gets us every single time. It really defames the white left and puts us in impossible positions, really. It's very effective politically. They later discussed Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition as a model for black-led, multiracial political agenda for all poor people and for Palestinians too. DMFI's attack ads, meanwhile, zero in on Lawrence's use of the phrase the white left, but not in defense of Israel or in defense of U.S. support for Israel. Instead, DMFI uses the rolling CPAC to do what Peterson Smith had identified as an effective tactic to exploit the moral authority and credibility of the Black freedom struggle in service of a competing agenda. It stands to reason that CBC leadership would be bothered by the Lawrence remark, but neither the CBC nor Rolling C has the sort of cash on hand to drop nearly $1 million in a single race between three white candidates in a district with a black population of roughly 6%. Rolling C had just $103,000 cash on hand at the end of June. The Crush MAGA PAC has already spent nearly $1 million against Lawrence. An affiliate of Crush MAGA, called Save Democracy, took $100,000 transfers from AIPAC Super PAC United Democracy Project in May. Lawrence has gotten $400,000 in outside support from National Nurses United and is now getting the backing of an anti-AIPAC PAC. The Super PAC Vote Vets has gotten heavily behind Matthew Mazdam, running heavily on his service as a Navy SEAL. A third candidate, Bridget Brink, is splitting the establishment vote. Consultants involved in the race say that recent internal polling shows Lawrence with significant lead ahead of the August 4th primary. Internal polls also show Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed ahead in the mid-Michigan region. American Priorities, the anti-AIPAC PAC, started spending this week in a joint effort in the area to boost both El Sayed and Lawrence together, replicating a strategy rolled out in New York City, in which the same ad would elevate both Claire Valdez and Daria Liza Avila Chevalier, since both were running in separate districts in the same media market. The intervention comes as the Haley Stevens campaign grapples with the revelation that its most prominent consultant, Caitlin Legacki, was also working secretly as a Palantir consultant. Palantir supplies substantial intelligence and technological support for Israel and also integrated to the operations of ICE. After DropSite asked the Stevens campaign for comment on Legacki's role, her role was terminated. Haley was unaware of Miss Legacki's work for Palantir. Her contract with the campaign has been terminated. She is no longer working for the campaign, Stevens' spokesperson told DropSite. Stevens is relying primarily on AIPAC spending to boost her campaign. The group has spent more than $30 million so far backing her. The spokesperson went on. Haley believes ICE is out of control, putting Michiganders in danger and needs an immediate overhaul. That's why she voted against giving them another. Okay, some of this is lies, so I'm not even going to repeat it on air. But anyway, you can read that article yourself. Legacki complained that DropSite is more interested in my sources of income than Abdel El Sayed's, the actual candidate in this race who hasn't filed his personal financial disclosure. El Sayed spokesperson Roxy Richter said that the problem runs deeper than a single consultant. Congresswoman Stevens said she'll stand up to ICE, all while she took talking points and advice from a compromised corporate apologist, now revealed to be a key advisor in Trump's deportation machine, Richter told Michigan Advance. Perhaps that's why Stevens voted to thank and fund ICE. Abdul has been clear and consistent on his stance since 2018. Abolish ICE. On Friday, in a major boost to Stevens, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer announced she would be getting off the sidelines and backing Stevens, saying the Congresswoman will, quote unquote, always put Michigan first. We got a lot more to say about that later. But most of that article was focused on William Lawrence and the fact that AIPAC is putting some substantial money in his house into his house race to try to get tear him down. I suppose would be a word. Anyway, you can find that article for yourself. That's from Drop Site News. The last minute $1 million ad spend against Will Lawrence is coming from a major pro Israel group. That was written by Ryan Grimm and Julian Andrione, published on July 24th. We're going to take another break. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. You can also find us online at Media Cyphers on YouTube, Facebook, and the Media Cyphers Kalamazoo podcast you can find on most podcasting apps. Keep it locked. This is Media Cyphers, your source for political revolution. Hey everybody, we're back. This is Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. While my co-host should be here in a few minutes, actually I did want to expand a little bit on that story about links between the Stevens campaign and Palantir. There's a good article from Truth Out. It's fairly concise, so I just wanted to dig into that real quick and expand on it. This is from Truth Out. It's written by Sharon Zhang, published on July 24th. Haley Stevens yeah. Sorry, man. I got off the radio for a month and I just have like bubble mouth of it. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Haley Stevens, Palantir Consultant scandal draws attention to her record on ICE. Up until this week, House Representative and Democratic Senate candidate Haley Stevens' campaign shared a mutual consultant with far-right tech surveillance company Palantir, new reporting reveals, bringing renewed attention to Stevens' record on ICE as she faces a contentious race against Abdul El-Sayed. Dropsite News' Ryan Grimm reported on Thursday that the consultant, Caitlin Lagacki, was consulting for Stevens' communications outfit while also secretly consulting for Palantir. Which, if you understand who Palantir is, that's actually ridiculously on brand because they're like a surveillance company, and of course they name themselves after like the evil seeing eye stone in Lord of the Rings. It's like I don't know how much more villain coded you can get with that. Anyway. The campaign also, again, Stevens' campaign claimed to be unaware that their consultant worked for Palantir. The campaign also replied with a statement touting Stevens' record on ICE. Palantir has been central to ICE and Department of Homeland Security's mass deportation efforts. Among other collaborations, ICE granted Palantir a $30 million contract last year to build out a surveillance program to track the movement of immigrants. According to, well, actually, that's the same quote from the other article that I also found less than truthful, so I'm not going to repeat it. Anyway, Stevens has frequently come under fire for her record on ICE. In February, Stevens visited a Michigan ICE jail where an immigrant who was being detained, Ninko Gonchev, died. After the visit, she praised the facility for employing women, a comment that was mocked online. Of note, there is female leadership here, and there are women who walked with us today and explained on the intake process how important it is to treat people with humanity. Yes, it is really good that the brown shirts of the Trump administration and our current era of American fascism have broken the glass ceiling. It really is inspiring. Anyway, that kind of sums up a lot of the criticism she got for that comment too. Stevens has also been criticized for being one of 75 Democrats who voted for a resolution that expresses gratitude to law enforcement officers, including ICE, after attack at a mall in Boulder last year. Congresswoman Stevens says she'll stand up to ICE, all while she took talking points and advice from a compromised corporate apologist, now revealed to be a key advisor in Trump's deportation machine, said a spokesperson for El-Sayed's campaign. Perhaps that's why Stevens voted to thank and fund ICE. Stevens, who was first elected to Congress by primarying incumbent Representative Andy Levin with the help of AIPAC in 2022, is locked in a fierce race against former public health official and progressive candidate El Said. AIPAC has poured nearly 30 million and counting. I think it's actually more since this article was dropped, into backing Stevens in the race, making it the pro-Israel PAC's largest ever investment into a single race and amounting to near double the Democratic National Committee's entire war chest for 2028 so far. Anyway, you want to read that for yourself? That is from Truth Out, written by Sharon Zhang. Haley Stevens' Palantir Consultant scandal draws attention to her record on ICE. Keep your dial locked. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, or the Media Cyphers Kalamazoo podcast. On most podcasting apps. Keep your dial locked. This is Media Cyphers, your source for political revolution.
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
That's a can of worms. There's a it's
that-
a not unexpected can. We were just chatting about an RFK related story. So the worms thing works on many levels.
Oh man,
brain worms, can of worms.
by the way, Wild Lawrence has appeared.
Yeah, Lawrence, how you doing today?
Hey man,
Yeah.
I'm all right, man. How you been?
Good. All right, so
yeah. So if you haven't heard, wash your food, folks. Don't be nasty. Wash your vegetables. Wash your fruits. Wash your wash your food. Like I understand that there's a whole conversation about not washing chicken and stuff like that, and I always say it's the same argument where I hear people talk about not washing rice and stuff. But if you haven't heard, there's been a disease that has spread. So there's two things that's spread that's come to food. One, there's a screwworm because Doge cut multiple programs that was taking care of a screwworm parasite that affects beef that attacks cattle, right? And now there has been multiple cattle farms in the southern United States that has been affected by screwworm. So if you're wondering why, outside of just the outright price gouging that your grocery stores are doing, and you're wondering why since January beef products and meat products has gone up 40%. 40.
Yes.
This is one of the reasons, because of one of the things that Doge cut. The other thing is that some of the health and water regulations when it comes to your plants, leafy greens, vegetables, and some of your fruit, strawberries, and things of that nature, our administration, in their infinite wisdom, said those are too many regulations we should have on food, and that we don't need them.
Yeah. And now, in high school, I don't know if they still tell you to read The Jungle in high school, but there's like this open book test, man.
So
they're failing.
Yeah, and they failed. They failed that open book test. So in Michigan, in Ohio, in the Midwest, it's mostly in the Midwest that I've seen so far, but it is also hit the East Coast as well. There have been multiple reports of people having explosive diarrhea.
Explosive diarrhea.
And the explosive diarrhea comes from the bacteria that's on your greens, your vegetables, your iceberg lettuce. Wash your food, folks. Wash your look. I get like there's a lot of times before you could have had an argument on, hey, scientifically speaking, you don't need to wash your chicken, and I will tell you you're uncultured. But now I'm telling you, hey, you should wash your food because I don't want you to have explosive diarrhea.
Yeah. I'm trying to. Okay, I'm having a brain fart. Who's the young guy on the Daily Show? Okay.
Josh Johnson.
Yes, Josh Johnson. See, he did a stand-up routine about Cyclospora, and he brought up a very interesting point. It's relevant to this show because we talk about the media, but it's like very rarely do you have the media, all of the media, conservative media, liberal media, alternative media, all agree on anything, but all of them use the same adjective: explosive diarrhea. All of them.
It is. It is from the reports that I saw. Shout out to Wood TVA. Shout out to Channel 3, and shout out to Wood TVA because they covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you the from what people have said, it is like if you took what's that pill that helps you release it like if you took one of those laxative, if you took a laxative and apple juice at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the like
yeah.
they said it's that bad. Like
Man,
it's
yeah, it is. Yeah, Cyclospora is no joke. You know, it's not just like, oh, I'll take some Pepto. It's like it can last for months, and it eats at your intestinal lining, and you get dehydrated. People can die. Nasty business, which is a direct result of the way this particular administration has eviscerated the social safety net.
dog, we don't need you to die like we don't want your family to find you like Elvis, okay?
No, oof,
Elvis,
yeah.
Elvis passed away on the toilet
uh,
because we
that's
don't
it.
need your family don't need to find you on the toilet like Elvis,
I'm
okay?
trying to think. That's that famous quote. The old world is dying, and the new world is struggling to be born. Now is the time of explosive diarrhea.
Dog, I think the thing is, folks, wash your food. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the main thing that I want to tell everybody. Wash your food. Okay,
Hmm.
um, wash your rice, wash your vegetables, cook your food. If you the other part of the what actual scientists that study these things have said
Hmm.
is that if you have like lettuce or things like that, if you actually cook it, like if you cook it
Hmm.
like you cooking greens, you kill all the bacteria. I think
Yeah,
the temperature has to hit over 150 or 160 or something like that. Um, in freedom units. So
yeah.
so
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
wash and cook your food, folks.
yeah, yeah. So I think speaking of a new world struggling to be born, it might be good. That might be a good segue into our election coverage.
Oh man,
It's next week. It's
next
next week,
week.
folks. November, no, November,
No, August
August 4th,
August 4th
August 4th.
is the primary next week. Make sure you go out and vote.
Yeah.
Make sure that your voice is heard. There is
Mhm.
nothing worse than you throwing away your vote or you saying, "Hey man, I wish this person didn't wasn't in office," or "Hey, uh your my vote doesn't matter." If your vote did not matter, folks, Republicans would not be working so hard to make sure you can't do it.
Yeah, and
Okay?
it's important. Vote. Vote local in addition to all of the elections, there's also going to be two very important villages on the ballot. We're talking about continuity of the transportation system, the bus system here in Kalamazoo. Which I mean, I don't need to tell y'all, we're working class folks. I use the bus. Especially a lot of people use the bus, even people who have vehicles. Like I share a Subaru with my wife, but sometimes she needs it at work. I'm on that bus, and we need that system to be well funded better. Honestly, we could use more service, especially on Sundays.
Dog, I'm not gonna lie to you. With gas prices the way they are,
Yeah, that's another thing. That's
gas
been
gas went up
yeah.
gas went up to over 425 over the past week when it was dropping below. It was getting into the $3 range and then dropped pop back up. I was like, ah.
Yeah, I think time to go hop on the bus. Yeah.
Yeah. What was
Mhm.
what's the other millage?
The other is you've probably seen the signs around town. It's like yes for kids or yes for children. It's got like the finger paint and stuff. It's a millage that would go towards childcare programs here in the Kalamazoo area, which is again, it speaks for itself. It's very necessary. It's something that I think it's very famously Mom Donnie ran on and was able to implement successfully. It was like child care program in New York City. We could potentially have something like that here. Millages are typically pretty popular. Very rarely do they get voted down, but it's more likely for them to get voted down if it's a low turnout, and if it's just like a bunch of stodgy people going to vote. Oh, I don't have to pay for
Mm.
that. I ain't had kids in 45, 60 years.
Yeah, it's not about you. It's about your
No,
grandkids,
I had a
unless you
grandkid.
unless you
Yeah,
feel like babysitting,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like and most of y'all don't.
Hmm.
So, yeah, man. Yeah, read up on them. We're gonna put. I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna put in most of the information that you need to read on the doobly doo below when we upload this. Um, all in the description. Especially because we're in Michigan. We're in Michigan, so we'll put all of our local stuff, especially our race, our county race. We had uh, I forgot his name. The second, I forgot his name.
Are we talking about our the Michigan House District?
Yes.
Okay, so that's Jen Strebs and Jessica Schwartz.
No, 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 yes, that race, but also, what was it DIOP? DIOP. We
Diop,
interviewed Diop.
Diop. Yes, that's
I keep messing up that brother's name.
yeah.
I'm so sorry. If you watch this, brother, I am so sorry.
It's okay. We played his interview last week. I do want to thank him. He ended up being the only politician this campaign season who came on. We were gonna arrange something with Jen Strebs. Just didn't really make it in time. As you know, we were on sabbatical for about a month. And of course, it is now crunch time.
Yeah.
So Jessica Schwartz and Sean McCann's campaigns did not respond to us.
Mm.
It's their loss. They don't want to come on the top-rated news podcast in Kalamazoo. That's yeah, it was their loss. But I guess I don't know. But maybe that tells you something about not really wanting to add or have a complicated, nuanced discussions about their politics. But I don't know. Do we want to start from the bottom up or the top down? Because we could start with the Senate race, or we could start with kind of what's going on in the Michigan
Let's
House. But
let's start how we normally do. Let's start local and branch it
all
out.
right, start from the bottom. Now we're here. All right.
Yeah.
So
Oh God.
yeah.
Okay. That I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about that. That's a different conversation.
No,
There is some
no.
hip hop conversation that we do need to
Oh
have,
yeah, yeah.
but that is a different conversation.
Okay, so the Jen Strebs and Jessica Schwartz race. This race has taken some interesting twists and turns. I think as late as early this year, Jessica Schwartz was actually still running for Congress. She was going to be running a three-way race with Diop and Sean McCann. She pivoted and decided to run for the Michigan House seat instead. This is most of this area, most of Kalamazoo. Parts of Portage are Matt Longjohn's territory, but this encompasses most of the people in our listening range here. Um, and I was going to break down a few things. So I wasn't able to pull up all of their like campaign contributions. There is a friend of the show, Chris Glasser, did a brief video about how Jessica Schwartz was maybe taking some of her money from her federal campaign and putting it into the state one, which is not necessarily illegal, but it's also that's not. It's a little eyebrow raising. I've also been seeing some PAC money coming. Jessica Schwartz. Jessica Schwartz has been doing some ad buys locally. I've seen a couple of them. They're interesting in the fact that like they very much center on how Jessica Schwartz is going to stand up against the Trump administration. Now, that's not to be said municipalities can't do that. In fact, we talk a little bit about Jen Strebs. She's on the county commission, and she's done a pretty good job. Like when, especially in the early Trump administration, where it's like, oh, you need to be racist or you won't get any more federal money. She was pretty good at like kind of threading the needle on that. Um, However, that's like the entire ad centered on that. It didn't
Mm.
really talk about, okay, what's Jessica Schwartz going to do in Lansing? Like, okay, you're going to stand up against Trump. that's great. Or what are you going to do against Matt Hall? What are you going to do against those folks? So that's one thing. Also, I'd say you compare the platforms of the two candidates, and I will give Jessica Schwartz some credit. Her platform does have some detail in it. It isn't just like a face page or whatever. Um, so you can read a lot through. She does support ranked choice voting, which is commendable. So a couple things though, it's like a lot of her platform points are really trying to hedge to the center. So a good example, this thing about data centers is she's probably like, okay, all right, y'all are mad about data centers. We get that. She cites legislation that's on the books about how, they just need to be enforced about, transitioning to renewable energy, but also talks about data centers as like job creation platforms, which is disingenuous. As we talk about on the show, it's kind of a false point because it creates a lot of temporary jobs around the construction, but it doesn't. The actual staff needed to maintain a data center is fairly minimal. I mean, I guess they'll have to hire a lot of security because people don't like these things.
Facts. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. In comparison, to compare her with her opponent. Her opponent is Sheb Jim.
Jen Strebs, yeah.
Jen is fantastic. Jen, I like her. I like her platform better. I like the fact that she is uh when it comes to data centers in general. She's like, nah. She's like, there's no ambiguity of no, we don't we should be trying to uh make sure that they're creating jobs in our community. They're like, no, nah, we don't need them. They
Mhm.
they 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 are an environmental risk. They are damaging to the communities around them, and uh and also we don't need AI stealing other people's jobs.
Yeah.
So I'm
Um,
just like, all right, cool. She has my vote. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say too about Jessica Schwartz is, often, so like, okay, so the dynamic in the McCann and Diop race is kind of like, oh well, he doesn't have any experience. And in the situation with Jessica Schwartz and Jen Strebs, you actually have a situation where the progressive candidate does actually have a lot more municipal experience. Jessica Schwartz not much experience in government. She has a lot of experience running for office. I know that. It does kind of boil down to though, like Jen Strabs. I don't know how much you've bumped into them in your organizing work. I have a lot. They have been involved in the community for a long time, even before they got on county commission. My only like real I'd say criticisms are pretty old. They're stale. Like I had some criticism back when they're, this is like 10 years ago, when we were first organizing. Pro Kazoo, for those who don't know the lore, they were a very big organization for a few years here in town. They were very much like kind of a sheepdog organization. It's like you had people from Debbie Stabenow's office come in here and kind of carpetbag and try to funnel that Bernard energy back into the establishment wing of the party. And I think to like Jen's credit though, they kind of learned from that, evolved from that, had some conversations. She's largely governed as a progressive at the county commission. Her platform points, she's able to cite some stuff she's actually got done, like the Homes for All millage. Now that's it's kind of like she's got things she could point to about how we work on housing, and also to her credit, she does support lifting the ban on rent control, which is a big thing. I've been pushing as housing advocacy. Blah. I've also heard like some people kind of criticize her for, not sufficiently calling out or bucking against Kalamazoo's ruling class. I mean, this is a real thing. We talk about this on the show a lot. Southwest Michigan first, and the Bills and the Foundation for Excellence. And I think it's a valid criticism, but it's also like that is the ocean everybody has to swim in Kalamazoo, whether
Yeah,
they're elected official or, Don Cooney, who's one of the most progressive, long-running progressives we had in Kalamazoo, voted for the Foundation for Excellence and stuff.
yeah,
Not that I'm condoning that, but I'm just telling you, like, it's that is not a reason. If you had to vote for one, I wouldn't you put that against her because
yeah,
like that is the big freshwater lake our politicians have to swim in here
yeah.
in Kalamazoo.
Like sometimes you have to make allies with people that you normally would.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Also, like for me, I'm not gonna lie to you. I am a largely single issue voter. She supports Medicare for all in the way that I think is the most reasonable and most and the way that I think will be the most successful. A single payer healthcare system. She supports. She doesn't support a hodgepodge mealy mouth system. She supports a similar system to the way that France has it, where it's public funding of private institutions. So that even though there's still private institutions here, it's the same way that Australia has it. It's a similar way that Canada does it. Even though Canada is broken up into multiple municipalities, it's the government is funding is paying to the point of service, and I agree with that. Uh, Jessica and some of the others that I've seen on their platforms, they don't. They have historically talked against it, and now since the wave of the DSA candidates has now taken started to take over the Democratic Party, you see them trying to adopt more of this language of the progressive movement, and I'm not here to give someone credit that just got to the party.
Yeah, and again, like just like I kind of cited, like I've seen Jen everywhere in my 10 years doing community organizing and doing this stuff on the radio. I think the first time I actually saw Jessica Schwartz speak was in that TV ad commercial I saw the other day. So
Yeah,
like, yeah,
I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her around Kalamazoo, but it just is what it is.
yeah.
Um, I personally trust one more than the other, but
Hmm.
that's my personal opinion. Um, please do your research before next week, before next Tuesday,
Yeah.
and show up.
I
We
also
have
say the endorsements, but I always find endorsements to be very telling, and Jen's is a lot more dense. A lot of the more names that are probably important to you listeners, like Michigan Democratic Party Progressive Caucus, We the People, Equality Michigan. Um, Oddly, both of them claim they're endorsed by the WMU College Democrats. So I'm gonna have to contact them by
okay.
next week to get that sorted out. And then like just a very, very long list of local politicians and local community organizers. Jessica Schwartz is a lot more sparse.
I'm mad at both of them for not for neither one of them getting the DSA nod.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I think that's also another thing. I know Kalamazoo does not have a DSA
Oh,
chapter.
well, we do. Well, the
Well,
Southwest Michigan DSA.
Southwest DSA, but I thought that was
Yeah.
all. I thought. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Maybe I'm
no,
just
no,
out of the
no.
loop. I
No.
thought that was connected to the Grand Rapids.
Oh, no, no. We do have a local chapter.
Uh,
We've had Ewan's been on the show before. He's I think the current chair.
yeah,
But yeah, they're pretty robust. They've been seeing a lot of numbers, especially since Trump's got reelected. Yeah, unfortunately I have not been going to their meetings as much. Just as y'all know, I had a lot of family stuff going on.
yeah,
Work is a thing. But yeah, there is a local DSA chapter to get involved with. Right now they've been kind of trying to do a campaign against the flock cameras downtown.
yeah.
Um, but
I agree.
I think it speaks to a bigger, and I'll probably talk about this more when we're getting to talk about the debate, not duel, but it's interesting, like the ascendancy of DSA politics. But yeah, you haven't heard that very much here in Michigan, or at least not explicitly. Which again, I think we'll talk about it a little bit more. I've got more to say about that later in the show. But yeah, they haven't saw the endorsement. I know there's a lot of crossover. There's like DSA members who have been volunteering for Gen Strebs and vice versa. But yeah, not no like explicit endorsements. Um, but yeah, that's a more I guess a broader issue we'll talk about in a little bit. I did want to pivot. Did you have anything else to say about the house race, Lawrence, before we
Not that one in particular. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I like Harris. I mean, we spoke offline about some of the pros and cons that um in when we had our interview with him and things that he said. But again, I'm looking at everybody who's also in that race,
Mhm,
and he is the best choice out of out of the two candidates.
mhm.
Also, he's uh, correct me if I'm wrong. He's not taking any APAC money at all.
No.
If
Mhm,
you care about if you go online and look up APAC tracker, I think that he has zero. He's zero, right?
mhm.
And compare that to his opponent.
Yeah, so
Ooh,
here's the thing.
ooh.
When we're talking about Diop, and like I said, he is the only politician in this cycle who came to talk to us on the show. So there's that. Uh,
A little biased.
yeah, a little bit biased, but he, yeah, very unabashedly progressive platform. Comes out from Battle Creek, and let me see. Where's the click on the endorsements page? Oh, there it is. Okay. But yeah, he also has a lot of those progressive um endorsements that you'd look for. Endorsement track AIPAC, Michigan Democratic Party's Progressive Caucus. He spoke a lot about his Native American roots, so he's got looks like a Native political leadership organization is also endorsing. Um, and I'd only say this race is a little bit. I don't guess I don't want to say more complicated, but it's a little bit more interesting. So Sean McCann has been part of our area's politics for a long time, and maybe too long. So he Mark sorry. So
Gotcha.
Sean actually has a lot his endorsements are a little bit more dense than Diop's are. He's got a lot of community members who, even like a lot of community members who kind of swim in those progressive currents. And that includes Indivisible. Kalamazoo endorsed him. And the Indivisible Kalamazoo also endorsed Jen Strebs, and they endorsed Abdul El Said. So if you're just going, only on policy, it's like, okay, two out of three. So what is it? So what is it about Sean? If you're a listener, and you don't know too much about aerial politics, like what is it about Sean that, okay, his politics are a little more centrist, and he has taken corporate money. The Diop Harris campaign didn't just make that up. What is it about him that is, why aren't more people highlighting, Diop Harris's campaign for Sean? And what it really boils down to is Sean has been out there, kind of like we mentioned. Jen has been out there. I've bumped into Sean a lot in my years as an organizer and doing the show. He is not one of those politicians who just sits at home and everybody has to, yell at his office. He does actually go there or go out into the community, I should say. However, he is definitely, politically more of an ideological centrist. And I think the best credit I'll give to Diop, Diop is very politically savvy. He understands where the electorate is. That's his platform reflects that. What I see Sean doing is this kind of because Sean has been represented Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo is one of the most definitely the most like progressive area in Southwest Michigan. Um, and he's hedging. I see him hedging rightward. I see him hedging towards this idea of like quote unquote purple Michigan.
Mhm.
You look at like his top endorsers. It's Gretchen Whitmer, Jocelyn Benson, Mark Schauer, Hillary Shelton, all these kind of establishment Democrats, and we'll talk a little bit more about Gretchen Whitmer's endorsements later in the show. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, but I think what it boils down to is Sean has built all of these relationships, but he is not going where the electorate is. He's running on the strength of those relationships while making this calculation that he needs to pivot rightward rather than leftward, which I think is a miscalculation. I think it could, the race against Huizenga is a very tight race. Nobody has been able to knock out a Republican from this district in decades. And unless you need to be able to do both. I think you need to have an exciting platform and you need those relationships. And if you do not have both, you're not going to cross the finish line. And Sean, I love to you, but he's been hanging out with a bad crowd, Lawrence. It's like
I,
ever since, and we didn't talk about this at the time because I was waiting to see if he'd come on the show. Ever since that video dropped of him relishing in that endorsement from Alyssa Slotkin, they're walking together in the woods. I was just like, dude, oh no, oh no. It's like,
so my issue with Sean is I don't know Sean personally. So Sean, if you see this, I don't know you. I've never met you. Um, my issue with you isn't personal. It's tactical, right? Um, every time we have ran a centrist against a Republican in this district, the Republican has won.
yep. Hmm.
So if we're talking about when it was Upton, that was Fred Upton when he was uh held the seat. Now Heisinger, right?
Hmm.
Um, when Matt ran against right? Matt, I have met you. We
Yeah.
have talked. You cool, but you ran like a neoliberal. You ran like a centrist.
Yeah, I will say he did get really close, and I think part of that though was the fact that he really leaned on like I'm a working class doctor, and he did really get into the weeds with a lot of his sorry, his medical platform. Although it wasn't Medicare for all, which that was yeah. Anyway, but
Again,
yeah,
again, that goes back to my
yeah,
point.
hmm,
Look, we saw the same thing when if you don't want to take it into just this district, take it to the broader spectrum. Hillary did the same thing against Trump.
hmm,
Uh uh VP Harris did the same thing against Trump, right? During an election year when populist rage is what the American people are feeding off of, right? So either it and during that time, either it's going to go populist left or it's going to go populist right. You
yeah,
and if you're trying to keep it neutral, you're the people will push you to where the energy was, and the energy was going right.
yeah, hmm,
You don't go that way. It For me, strategy wise, if we look at Mom Donnie, if we look at AOC, if we look at Rashida Tlaib, Rashida here in Michigan, right?
hmm,
These are standing on business, 10 toes down, progressive politicians that have progressive platforms.
hmm,
They are unapologetic in the way they speak on issues. Like you don't need to match their charisma or the way that they talk, but how they explain policy and how they get people involved. I don't see Sean doing that. And that's
yeah,
and that's my only issue.
hmm,
Do I think that you can eke out that at this particular moment, because this is a blue wave election, can a centrist slide on a blue wave? Yeah. Do I want to take that chance? No.
yeah.
And that's my only issue.
Yeah, I know I've seen some of the polling too. I think there's capacity for Diop to do an upset, but it does not look super likely. But I would say one of the important things about voting for the most progressive candidate you can is even if Sean wins, it's important to have those numbers you can point to and be like, okay, you won, but this is how close it was. This is how many people voted. This is where those voters came from. Because that's an important part of it too. Is like if Sean McCann wins, he's going to be looking at that data and seeing like where do I need to pick up votes and what do they want.
Yeah.
At least that's what a savvy campaign would do. And generally, yeah, like ain't nobody winning unless you are going to be bold. And
Yeah.
especially like, do not be signaling that you're going to govern like Alyssa Slotkin, who is one of the most conservative Democrats in the Senate, voted for more Trump nominees than anybody else. Spent her response speech to Trump's State of the Union glazing Ronald Reagan. Uh, this is
Yeah.
like,
We do not need the tranquilizing drug of gradualism in this time. And if that is what you're providing, then that is a problem.
mhm.
That's not the time that we're in.
Yep.
Because
Hmm.
it is that kind of thinking that got us Trump. It's that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thinking that maintained a Republican in this district.
Hmm.
Now what I would say from a strategy perspective, I would say, hey, man, make them attack you on your strength. When you're talking to these voters, because it's not just Kalamazoo, it's all the way out in Holland and all that. Explain to the like have them when you're making your pitch, explain to them why universal child care will be a bad thing. Explain to them why. Explain. Have them try to explain to you that universal health care is a bad thing when an overwhelming majority of the country wants it. Like
Yeah.
from a strategy perspective, I'm like, I think that uh Harper can do that better.
Hmm.
Maybe that's because, and again, maybe I'm biased because he came on
Yeah.
our show. Um,
Well, yeah, Harris just he knows what time it
yeah,
is better than
I feel
Sean
like I
does.
feel
He
like I
just
feel
does.
like I feel like Harris
Yeah.
can I feel like Harris can swing more voters. Uh, but also I feel like Harris will also stand 10 toes down on issues that he believes
Yeah. Yeah.
in. And
Hmm.
I don't trust someone who's cool with slocking to do
Yeah,
that.
it's a level of triangulation
Yeah,
that is especially a politician who spent so much time representing Kalamazoo of all places. Like
yeah,
you, if he wins, he's gonna have to spend the next couple months getting his voters back because like a lot of people are not happy with this word pivot. I know like certain organizations like Indivisible can like see past it, but there's a lot of us who are just like, but it's like, okay, what are you actually gonna do? And like, if you're just gonna be part of team Hakeem Jeffries and team Slotkin and team Chuck Schumer, like that's it is not the time for those kind of games. It
yeah.
just is not.
So, uh, moving from there, so there was some controversy that's happened. So we're moving from the west side of the state over to the east side of the state.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Hakeem Jeffries endorsed Sharif Thanedar.
Ah, yes, I was wondering to bring this
Yes,
up. Yes.
yes. Hakeem Jeffries endorsed Sharif Thanedar,
Hmm.
and the Progressive Black Caucus endorses endorsed what's his name? Hold on, let me pull it up.
A progressive black candidate running against Thanedar. I
Yeah,
forgot his name also. I'm sorry.
dog, dog, dog. When I read it, when I saw it, I just laughed. I got my 40 chuckles in. Um, because again, it goes back to the conversation that we were having earlier. Now, the Progressive Black Caucus, I will need y'all to come to the front of the table, come to the front of the church so that we can have a conversation later when we talk about Abdul Al Sayed. But that's later. This dude,
Oh yeah, Donovan McKinney. That's right. Yeah.
Donovan. Shout out to Donovan, man. He was on a number of different programs, uh, uh, pushing a progressive uh democratic socialist ideology. He was on Hassan Piker stream a while
Yeah.
ago, so shout out to Hassan for that. He was he's been out here. He's been out here putting in work, and I love to see it. I love to see it. And I also love to see Hakeem Jeffries cry. So that's what like, like that's
Yeah.
like look, man. I I have I have no personal issue with Hakeem Jeffries, but I do have an issue when the majority of the time you have spent in power, you are basically telling the American people there's nothing you can do to gum up the works.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have Mitch McConnell, who's literally dead, allegedly, who's allegedly,
The
and
weekend at Mitch's is
right, like
yeah.
we have
For the young listeners, that was an '80s movie about a dude. It was a comedy where they have to pretend this guy isn't
yeah,
dead, so they
yeah.
just like
They carry him
they
around.
carry
Okay.
his corpse around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Mitch McConnell has shown throughout all of his years, him being the grim reaper of the Senate and in our body politics, that even when you are in the minority, you can disrupt progress. You can
Yeah.
disrupt the program even when you are not in power.
Hmm. I would say,
Yeah.
staying alive or like legally alive just long enough to stop a procedural vote. I think that's the way Mitch would have wanted to
That,
go out.
that
So,
like okay, I know that we're off topic. We're supposed to be talking about
yeah,
economy. No, we're gonna hop back to it.
yeah.
Just follow me. Just follow me for a
Hmm.
second. This man's been in the hospital for over a month.
Yeah.
I don't know many 80-year-old people who are when they are in the hospital for over a month that they are still alive.
Yeah.
At I want you, the viewer who is going to be watching this later, the person who has a 9 to 5, you call off work for over a month, not show up,
Hmm.
not call in sick, not use any sick time, and see if you still have your job. There is
Yeah.
no reason. There is no reason why this man. No, and I get it. And I get it. They want to stop the special election because the governor can call for a special election, but legally,
Yeah.
if he is still, conscious,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Uh, then technically he can't do.
Yeah,
They
and
can't do
the
that.
governor is Andy Bashir, who's a Democrat, and they were also concerned Thomas Massey might run as an independent.
Yeah. So they're trying to stop that procedure, and this is very similar to when they stole the Supreme Court seat, right? This is very similar
Yeah,
to
yeah.
how he
Hmm.
gummed up the works when it came to the Affordable Care Act. The uh that during the President Obama administration, they broke the filibuster record within half a year.
Hmm.
So Mitch McConnell has shown, without a shadow of a doubt, with his actions, that you can even in the minority, you can still will power. And people like Hakeem and others choose not to do so. This is the
Yeah.
reason why this is my issue with
The
them.
parliamentarian.
Yeah, yeah, that's my issue with them. Now this goes back. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, Sharif Thanedar, who, if you remember, was a spoiler during the governor's race when Abdul ran for governor. He was a spoiler to take away votes from Abdul, right? He then ran for Congress, got in, he bought the seat basically, and now he has a progressive who who's running to his left. And I want to remind you, Cherie was one of the Congress people who thanked ICE, who helped raise more money for ICE. He was one of those Democrats.
Yep.
he was also one of those Democrats that continue to give money to the genocide in Palestine. He's one of those Democrats. Sharif Thanedar uh hasn't he has not seen a check from a special interest that he would not take.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now you have a person who's like I'm unbought, and not corrupted, running to his left, and we love to see it. We love
Mm-hmm.
to see it. Golf clap,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
golf clap. Yes, we love to see it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really hoping that race goes a good way. We'll see Tuesday night what happens. But yeah, Sri Thanadar is well, I mentioned the term carpetbagger earlier, and like that he is just like the dictionary definition. It's like if you're unfamiliar with that political term, it's like somebody who comes from outside or from far away to go live in a district or an area and then run for office there. Yeah, Sri Thanadar is just like he's always just he has the aura of somebody who just wants to have an important sounding job. Like he's just a rich guy who it's like, you know what I'll do? I'll run for Congress. It's
No,
just
it's he is I don't like I have a love-hate relationship with the musical Hamilton. He's the bad guy in Hamilton that shoots Hamilton. That's he wants to be in the room where it happened.
yeah.
Okay?
Mhm.
That's Cherie.
Yeah.
It is pure ambition for self-indulgent reasons.
Hmm.
Because again, Cherie's already a millionaire. You're
Yeah.
already a millionaire.
Hmm.
What else do you need? What else do you really need to do with your life?
It's like the Elon Musk problem. It's like I want to feel like a big important big boy, and that's why Elon does it by running a bunch of corporations, and I think Sri Thanadar does it because he's in Congress and he
I'm
can
just
stand up to the mean man or Trump and yeah, all
I
that
think
stuff.
and the other thing that just makes me angry about it is I'm just like, okay, you're a millionaire. You want to be in a position of power. What have you done in your position of power that's actually helped your constituents? You're
Yeah, yeah.
the district that
It's funny how he wants to feel important until it's time to like stabilize the rents or
yeah,
help people get expanded access to Medicare.
I want to remind you that the district that Sharif Thanadar is in is one of the poorest districts in Michigan. It's one of the most. It's one when it comes to environmental pollution, it's one of the most toxic communities in Michigan because of the industrial pollution from from the auto industry in majority black and brown neighborhoods.
Hmm.
And you have done. Don't worry, I'll wait.
Nothing.
Right,
That was it.
you're right.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
That's better if you
so
wait for me to say.
no. I no, it wasn't that. I'm like,
Yeah. Or as my dear brother would have said,
that's
nothing.
the point. He's done
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing at all.
Yeah.
It's no. So we need some new blood. We need. If you're in the East Coast of the state, please vote. Please vote to keep him in. Also vote to make sure you keep Rashida Tlaib in. We need more Justice Democrats, more DSA candidates. So that brings us to the debates.
The debates.
If you
Oh
saw the
man.
debate last night,
I can just imagine like the AIPAC people watching it and what's that Godfather meme? Look how they massacred my boy. Oh just
so
it was I have never seen such brutality.
so first of all,
Lord.
before we even get there,
Yeah.
if you didn't see the debate, it was on Fox. It was on Fox.
Was it the
Actually,
Detroit affiliate? I forgot.
yeah, it was Fox. It was
Yeah.
I think it was
Fox 2,
yeah.
which I
So
yeah.
first of all, shout out to the moderators of that debate.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Mhm.
like I have I have issues with a lot of moderators when it comes to debates because they're biased in how they are asking questions and also follow-ups to answers and fact checking usually is one-sided because it's on Fox and Fox doesn't like Democrats. They were very much equal. They were very equal when it came to fact checking and pushing back,
Yep. Hmm.
except in my opinion, and again, in my opinion, there were multiple times where Miss Stevens would lob an accusation, and Abdul was not allowed to respond.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a thing. But outside of that, like Abdul has to change his name. He can't be doctor. He got to be chef. Cause your man was cooking last night,
Yeah.
man. He was cooking last night, man. I was like, I was watching. I was like, oh, oh. Uh, so I like the fact that I love that they've had two debates. So now there's no excuse for why you are choosing to vote for Haley Stevens, because there's not one time during that debate she actually answered the question directly or
Yeah.
actually brought up policy that she cared about.
It was all so nebulous, just so many like platitudes. And she referred to her work in the automotive industry, but she didn't go into any details about, okay, how are you going to expand on that? How are you going to build on that? How is that relevant to what you're going to do in
Oh, oh
Congress?
no, she talks about how she's a fighter, how she's a workhorse,
Fighter.
how she's a
Yeah.
fighter, how she's the most effective. And not one time did she bring up a
Yeah.
policy that she is actually fighting
Yeah,
for.
I think it was Crystal Ball brought this up, but she made a really good point that like you look at Abdul signs and it's all like money out of politics, Medicare for all, like policy prescriptions. Haley Stevens has like stick it to them. Stick it to who? What, Palestinian children? Stick it to them? Who are we sticking it at?
No,
Yeah.
the lady who says Israel comes to me in my dreams. It's it was crazy last night because it's like she keeps trying to dig Abdul with, hey, uh, your Republicans say that they can beat you. Yeah, they can try to do the Pied Piper strategy the same way that Hillary did about
Yeah.
with Trump, and we
Mm.
look how that turned out,
Yeah,
right?
it's all that, and I wanted to kind of make a point. That's all based on a fallacy. As Abdul pointed out, if you actually consult the polling, it shows he does better against
Mike Rogers,
Mike Rogers than
who's also
uh,
trash.
yes.
Again, I want to
Yeah,
remind everybody, it doesn't matter if it's John James,
yeah,
who's also running
yeah.
again. It doesn't matter if it's Mike Rogers. All the Republicans are trash.
All right.
These are all Republicans who will not tell you that Donald Trump lost
Yeah.
the 2016 election.
So I think there is a so why then are both Mike Rogers and Haley Stevens saying Mike Rogers would rather run against Abdul because
Yeah.
Mike Rogers and it's not this is not a Scooby Doo mystery. If It might be because, oh my gosh, he's a scary brown man with a scary name, but we're not allowed to say that out loud. But it reminds me a lot of like Hillary versus Obama back in the day.
Oh
He's
yeah.
like, she didn't say it out loud. It's like, well, his name's Barack Hussein Obama. So, he's not electable. But
Oh
that's
no no.
essentially the argument they're
Yeah,
using against
yeah.
Abdul.
It's that, and except that they don't have a picture of him wearing kente cloth. Like,
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
like, so
If they did,
if they did,
that'd be everywhere. I'll tell
no,
you.
Doug, some of the most disgusting things in this campaign, outside of her pretending that President Obama endorsed her, was the tying Abdul to the synagogue shooting in some of the
Yeah. Oh
ads
my God.
is
Mhm.
Doug, that's nasty work.
Yeah.
That is nasty work. When Abdul has nothing to do with like the shooters that did that didn't name drop Abdul. Like
Yeah.
they didn't say that they supported any of the progressive Democrat policies. Like,
Hmm.
but if you were to just watch the ad, you would believe that was somehow tied to it. And that's
Yeah.
nasty work.
Hmm.
That's almost as nasty as the mailers that went out before the debate of Haley Stevens taking out ads basically saying that Mike Rogers endorsed Abdul.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, like I feel like that's actual fraud. Like, because they use his logo, they
Um,
use
to the
his
extent that I think
yeah,
the Saeed campaign was trying to like have it investigated for breaking FEC rules, but
yeah, because bruh, that's that. If that's the case, if that is the case, that she can do that to Abdul with the little money that Abdul is making, because he's getting outspent 15-1 or 12-1 or whatever. I would put out a video of how Bibi Netanyahu
yeah.
and, or how Blue Cross Blue Shield
Mhm.
or how Palantir or how the data centers have endorsed Haley. If you're gonna be nasty like that, and also you shouldn't be. That's the other part. You shouldn't. We shouldn't be doing those type of tactics when you have to go against uh when you have to go against Mike Rogers in the
In
general.
general, yeah.
And this is the point that I want to make for everybody. AIPAC has put about 17 to $20 million into
Million.
Haley's campaign. Haley's campaign has spent around 40 to 50 million.
And by the way, if you think like, oh, it's, this is just in Michigan, it's, where it's like they have dumped more. This is the most money they have ever dumped into a single race. Like
And
it is that critical for them to
so
get Hate Stevens in there.
and I'm glad you said that, because that
Yeah.
also goes back to my point. I've been all around this county. I see Abdul ads, I see Harris signs, I see a bunch of different signs. I have not seen a Stevens sign.
I have seen a couple, but only in like the wealthiest chunks of
Yeah.
Kalamazoo.
No, and the other part of that, and this is the other part. The when you talk about people canvassing, when you talk about volunteers, right? Abdul has what about 10,000, 100,000,
Yeah.
it's
It's a popular phrase in progressive organizing circles. Like they have the money, but we have the people, and
yeah.
that is very, very true for Saeed's
So
campaign.
my issue is if Stevens wins, what is the motivation of those corporations to continue to donate to her? Because
Yeah,
the same corporations that she's being funded by are the same corporations who are also funding Mike Rogers' campaign.
yeah. At that point, they're just like, okay, the real threat is gone. Let's give all of our money to Mike Rogers, so we don't have to settle for Diet Coke when you just get like regular.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, absolutely, 100%. It
full strength fascism
yeah,
instead of diet.
it doesn't it doesn't there's no skin off of it. Like APAC will not lose if Mike Rogers or if Haley is in wins.
Yeah. And well, you might have noticed we're not talking about the governor's race. And it's a very, Jocelyn Benson kind of has it locked down. And it was really funny because somebody messaged me about like, hey Andy, who should I vote for in the governor in the primary? And it's like, there's more than one. I forgot there was this other I forget his name, but he's a sheriff from the east side of the state who's still technically running, but it's like 60 to 12. It's and
It's pretty
yeah,
bad. It's
yeah.
pretty bad.
And the reason reason it's like it's the thing is there's not enough that distinguishes them politically for that to send any sort of message. So if you go vote for the other guy, it's like they've got the kind of same platform. There's not really much there. And Jocelyn Benson herself, her does not have a very like ambitious platform. She did drop a policy point the other day about making it easier for first time homeowners to not have to compete with these private equity companies, which is commendable, but it's also what we've seen from a lot of centrist Democrats where they will laser focus on policies that affect this very specific strata of the middle class. How's that going to affect renters or people who aren't even thinking about buying a house?
How is that
Yeah,
gonna affect the fact that we live in we live in a state where the lower half of the lower peninsula has high levels of lead concentration.
yeah,
We
and
we
yeah,
live in a state, because again, we have to
hmm
keep bringing these things
yeah,
up. We live in a state where a large number of cities and rural areas may not have clean drinking water. That rural hospitals, and other hospitals are shutting down because
Yeah.
they're not getting funding.
Yeah, we actually ran a story at the beginning of the show about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So if you're a governor, if you're the governor, right? How are you going to be making sure to take care of the people of your state?
Yeah. Hmm.
And do you have a universal healthcare state program? Just do you have a state program? Did
Yeah.
you read Abdul's book,
Yeah.
the 3 books that he had?
Yeah.
Did you have? Are you going to do a moratorium on data centers? Are you
Yeah.
going to talk about how? Are you going to enforce the Clean Water Act?
Yeah.
Are you going to make sure that they do an environmental study before they start building?
Hmm.
Are you going to make sure that if they start building without doing any of those checks beforehand, that you're shutting it down?
Yeah.
We talked about Line 5. We talked about all these other
Oh boy.
pipelines and things of that
Mhm.
nature. And I want to remind everybody, it was only in 2012 when the pipe burst in the
Yeah.
Kalamazoo River.
Yeah.
So there are multiple things as a governor that I would like to see baby girl address that I feel like she's not.
And the thing with Jocelyn Benson is, I'm going to say this: she better hope that Abdul wins, and let me explain
Ooh,
why. Um, when she started running, it was mostly on the strength of like I'm associated with Dana Nessel and Gretchen Whitmer, who are both fairly popular, and like we held it down through the Trump years, etc. Both Dana Nessel and Gretchen Whitmer have spent the last year absolutely committing arson on themselves, torching their own reputations, especially
facts,
Gretchen Whitmer, who, she just came out and
facts.
endorsed Stevens after that audio leak about the AI data center. It's like, well, people don't want them here, but we're gonna build them anyway. She just vetoed 9 different pro-labor bills, and labor unions here in Michigan are hopping mad about it. She just rubber stamped line 5, which was her main campaign promise when she originally ran, back in 2018.
Yeah.
So she is literally just setting everything on fire out the door. And I honestly think that's at this point, it's more of a liability than it is like a good thing. And for Jocelyn Benson, if her coalition is gonna be like her and Haley Stevens, it's going to be as exciting to voters as the prospect of reading the phone book. And of course, AIPAC ain't going to stick with Haley Stevens, like you mentioned. They're going to stand her up at the prom. They're going to go
Oh
send their
man.
flowers to Mike Rogers. So you're going to have no people and no money, and you're just going to
Doc,
have to pray. Yeah,
that
yeah.
means people like that means like someone like John James and other Republicans will be in those seats of power, and we don't need that.
Oh
We
man,
don't
yeah,
need that.
yeah. Oof.
It's not. It's not what we want. It's not what we need. It is not good for us.
Hmm.
Not good for us at all.
Yeah. I wanted to, we've got about 13 minutes left. Obviously, just got a lot to talk about, but just a couple other things about the Senate race and the debate. Some other things I noticed. Stevens, like anytime a question came up about campaign finance, she would either pivot to just be like, well, campaign finance is a problem, and then not say anything about how to address it, or she would say, well, people on the internet are making fun of me. They're making fun of me for my Michigan accent. It's like, no, I think people are just more mad about like the genocide thing. Um,
Okay. Also, wait. And this is the other thing,
yeah,
because I know people from the
yeah,
UP.
hmm,
A lot of people from the UP.
yeah, yeah.
They don't sound like her.
No, no, it seems coach. It
It's
really does. Yeah,
fake.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Fake.
yeah,
The reason why I thoroughly believe, because correct me if I'm wrong. She's from Rochester. She is
yeah,
from outside Detroit. She is from
yeah.
outside Detroit, Michigan.
Getting big Kid Rock vibes from Haley
Dog, there is
Stevens.
no one from
Backstory.
outside that dog.
Yeah,
I've been all over
yeah,
those areas, dog.
yeah.
Don't nobody talk like her.
Hmm.
And there are people that's from the UP that does not talk, that they don't talk like her. That's not. I feel like this is my own personal theory. My own personal theory, and I know I may be off basis. I feel like she does the what gives that type of energy to distract from the policy that she's not giving. I feel like in the same way that if you remember when George W. Bush was running against John Kerry and Al Gore, he would really ham up that he's from Texas.
Yeah.
And he'll
Yeah.
he'll
Yeah.
give you the real folksy talk, the real folksy
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah. Uh,
I feel like she's doing the same thing.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, and maybe that's just me. Maybe that,
Yeah.
that might just be me. But I feel like she's doing that as a cynical ploy, and and this is the other part why I wanted to bring it back. Congressional Black Caucus. This is when I need you to come sit at the front of the church. Um, I get that some people who are in that Congress, that particular sect in Congress, this is your colleague. These are people that you have worked with before, and that nature. That is fine and dandy. I get that. The Congressional Black Caucus, when you think about the history of that caucus and the things that they were fighting for, the legacy of people that was in that caucus, and the policies that they uh, fought for and cared about. We're talking about people who were former freedom riders that were a part of that caucus. We're talking about the Jesse Jackson wing of the party. We're talking about the Rainbow Coalition. We're talking about policies um like standing for Voting Rights Act and Medicare for All and things of that nature. All the policies that the Democratic Socialists now are fighting for. Stevens does not support, and you're supporting her.
Yeah.
You cannot support somebody just because they're your colleague. You need to support them because they're right on the issues. And
Mhm.
if you are doing so, then you care more about your your team winning than the constituents that you're supposed to be representing, because your constituents, because the people that's been voting for you, your voters, care about those policies. How are
Yeah.
you gonna vote
Yeah.
for somebody? We need to hold a standard that if you are voting to continue to give money to countries that are committing genocide, we are not supporting you. If you are not in support of policies that the overwhelming majority of the base supports, like Medicare for All, like universal free college, like a living wage, like ending the wars, like a Green New Deal. These are all policies that are 70% or more with the base of the party. If you do not support any of those things, we cannot support you.
I'm glad you brought this up because I feel like the Haley Stevens campaign is doing this very cynical, and we've seen this before. This kind of like using kind of black identity to launder either neoliberalism or in this case genocide.
Yeah,
And what we see, her campaign leaning into like, I have all of this black support, Abdul doesn't. There's this article from CNN that just dropped, like Abdul's campaign has a problem with black constituents.
yeah, and you
And
saw Jim Clyburn
yeah,
bring his wrinkled crib
yeah,
keeper self to say, "Hey, Abdul doesn't have a lot of. I don't see a lot of people that look like me in his at his rallies." When you had Summer Lee, one of the keynote speakers, you
yeah,
had Corey Bush be one of the keynote
yeah,
speakers, you had Jamal Bowman come out and be one of his keynote speakers.
yeah,
He's cross endorsed with the dude that's running against Sharif
yeah,
Thanedar.
yeah.
Like,
He was a healthcare administrator, not in the UP, in Detroit,
right,
in the
like,
Detroit area.
like, like it just goes back to the corporate capture that we were talking about. This
Mhm,
is the money and politics stuff, because
yeah,
a lot of those, and again, a lot of those same people that are endorsing that endorse Haley, that's endorsing Miss Stevens, are also taking AIPAC money.
mhm,
They're also taking big pharma money. They're also taking data center money, and they care more about that than they care about their voters.
yeah.
All of them have to go.
Yeah. And I think too, like I mentioned, this is just about every progressive who's run in the last 10 years. I see some version of it with Bernie, Mom Donnie, like, oh, black voters aren't supported. And you actually look at the demographics, it's always like it's the young versus old thing that you find that's consistent across all racial demographics. It's like younger people support DSA type stuff, the older people not as much, and that's true with black folks as much as just basically everybody else. But you see this trotted out. Just I think it's just there's something particularly gross about it with Stevens because the biggest thrust with her campaign is like enabling genocide in Palestine. So it just something feels extra disgusting about that tactics to me. But
I
yeah.
and also this also, but it's not just the Congressional Black Caucus, the Progressive Caucus in Congress. You need to also come take a seat right next to the Congressional Black Caucus. Why do you have people in your Congress that does not believe in Medicare for all, that also believes in giving money to genocidal regimes?
Yeah.
You cannot. We need to set a better standard. You cannot have people who are a part of your caucus who are antithetical to everything that you are supposed to believe in.
Mm-hmm.
If you are okay with genocide, you are not you. If you're okay with genocide, then you will not stand up for rights here in America. You will not stand up for the voters here in America.
Mm-hmm.
If you're okay with data centers poisoning your voters, then you are not fit to be a representative of that district or a senator of that state because
Yeah.
you don't care about your people.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Point blank. If you see what happened with Nolan Wells or other black children, if you can watch what's happening in the detention centers in New Jersey or whatever, and you think it's okay, you don't speak up about it, or you choose to not use your platform to speak about it, then no, you do not need to be in. Hey, UPS is hiring.
Oh yeah, there you
Hey,
go.
DoorDash is hiring. Okay, Walmart always hiring.
Mm-hmm.
You find a different job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, I have two other points. One is just really quick. I know we only got like 5 minutes left, but one more about Stevens. Then I do have a critique about Abdul, just one, really big one. But Haley Stevens also just kept referring to him as a podcaster, which I thought was very interesting. Like, we don't need a celebrity senator. And like I mentioned, dude's been a healthcare administrator for decades. That's about as like
His wife is also a doctor.
yes,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. Hmm.
their
Yeah,
their combined income last time I checked is around $3 million. They would be the brokest people in the Senate.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that.
He would be
Yeah,
the brokest
yeah.
person in the Senate.
But it was so funny for me. Like she's trying to like talk at him like he's like a YouTube influencer. I'm like, this dude has been doing like serious healthcare work for decades. And like the only reason he is quote unquote celebrity is because people like his policies.
Facts.
Like you would let. One thing I did not like, and as I'm sure some of you may have seen this coming. So Abdul, he was asked point blank, like, "Are you a socialist?" And he's like, "I'm a capitalist. I want capitalism to work better. I want it to be regulated, monopolies, etc." And without going on a big long Marxist tangent about it, let me try to just be as succinct as possible. Um, two things. Hassan Piker actually kind of gestured towards this. Is just the idea of like it does seem like a lot of even the progressives running here in the Kalamazoo area avoid the S word. There's still this concern about using the word socialist in a quote unquote purple state like Michigan. I think people what my rebuttal to that is you look at historically the places where socialism has taken root. The city that had the longest running socialist administration in American history was Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
It's and farmers coalitions back in the like late 19th early 20th century, that's where most of the socialists came from. That could happen again. What needs to happen, it's kind of like what with Mom Donnie, he has shown people what socialism actually looks like. It doesn't take long, even really, I know we've all been propagandized from cradle about the scary S word socialism, but you show people what it actually does, that flips the switch pretty quick. So there's that. um, I also wanted to say and this might be, I might talk about this more at the end of the year wrap up, but there is a difference between being a socialist and being like an FDR Democrat. And I say that less as a compliment, more as a warning. As we remember, the New Deal did a lot of stuff for most people. We've critiqued that on the show and that guess, but the big thing to remember with FDR is he spoke about how he felt his biggest accomplishment was saving capitalism from itself. And that kind of what Abdul said kind of puts him in that FDR school, save capitalism from itself. It's very interesting because we had a fundraiser show over the weekend here in Kalamazoo for Abdul that was like raising money for democratic socialism. And I wasn't about to get on the stage and be like, well, actually he didn't say it's over, but um it's something I think y'all should pay attention to. I'm not saying like, well, if Abdul is not going to lead a vanguard party of the proletariat, like why bother voting? No, but I am going to say it's something to keep in mind, especially in the years to come. We've seen people like AOC, who does call herself a socialist, vote against like the rail strike and that sort of thing. And when push comes to shove, we have to push these politicians, especially those who were towing this FDR line, like, hey, something like a general strike is coming up. Are you going to be with the workers, or are you going to be about stabilizing capitalism?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, like my thing is this. Again, it goes back to the during this primary, who's closer aligned with the policies that I care about. Abdul is closer aligned to the policies that I care about the most. Um, I feel like we can push him to our perspective if you are saying, "Hey, I want him to be aligned more with a socialist worldview." Miss Stevens is not going to move. She's
no.
not going.
Mm-hmm.
The only way she's moving is she's moving to Jerusalem, and that's
Yeah.
about it. Like that's the only place where
Yeah,
she is moving.
totally.
She's not moving. She's not moving
Uh,
anywhere close to our position. I didn't like that answer either, but Abdul is the better choice. And also the whole I think thing about FDR, yeah, FDR helped some people, and usually some being white people, white men.
white. Yes.
Uh we can have social policies like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and the GI Bill. But again, during his reign, that only worked as long as people who look like me didn't get it.
Yeah.
And that's not how things work nowadays.
That's true. Yeah.
If we're going to have a working class coalition, a multiracial rainbow coalition that is going to fight back against the oligarchs that has bought our system, then yes, those social policies, and redistribution of wealth, uh, and power has to be distributed equally to everyone, and we cannot leave people out. Abdul's not leaving people out,
That's true. Yeah.
and that's what I care about the most. It's the policy is that his policies isn't are will not leave people out. When I hear people say that you can have access to, then you're leaving people out. When you start hearing some of those weasel words, access to, then it's like nah, because I have access to a Maserati. I'm not getting one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I have I have
Uh,
access to,
yeah.
to a mansion. That doesn't mean I'm gonna get one.
It's like
Like
means tested. Oh,
right. It needs to be means tested, right? I need to means test this Rolls Royce,
yeah.
right? Like, nah. Um that was I say I also agree with that. I think that was my biggest issue with Abdul and has been. Hopefully, I'm hoping because I still have his contact and we're gonna see if we can actually get him when he
Yeah.
swings back around this
Mhm.
way. See if we can get
Yeah.
him on a show.
There's always a dearth of interviews right after someone gets elected. So like those, I always find those more interesting. It's like, okay, you're there. Now
Right, yeah,
what's next?
right.
And it's stuff time.
Don't
Yeah.
yeah, don't switch
Yeah.
up now. Don't
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you better be 10 toes now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But anyway, I actually gotta go because I
All
actually got
right.
an appointment.
It is about time to wrap up. Thanks for coming, Lawrence. It's
Yeah,
always great to have you in person.
yeah.
Everybody else who's listening, I hope that when you listen to this program, you're a little bit more well informed about next week's primary. It's August 4th. Please, I would
Go vote
suggest
next week.
exercise your right to vote. It's I think the Greg Palast, the great election integrity journalist, once said, if voting didn't matter, they would not try so hard to keep you from doing it.
Facts.
And yeah, it's it. What kind of Michigan do you want to wake up to on August 5th? Do you want somebody's gonna, fight for Medicare for all, or do you want to see Israel in your
Yeah,
dreams?
yeah. Oh yeah. We've been saying for multiple weeks that we're going to
Yeah.
be doing more. We have quick hits that we're going to do and other
Oh, yeah.
content
Mhm.
that is still coming. Because I don't know if you've heard about Trump's voter integrity law
Oh,
and things.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we didn't get a chance to get to it.
A lot has happened since we've been
Yeah,
gone. The government wants to either kick us out or keep us here. I'm not sure which.
yeah. And
Yeah,
there's some
yeah.
other online stuff too. People who are punching left that shouldn't be punching left. I'm looking at you, Van Jones. That's a conversation
Oh,
that we will also be having. And also Norm Finkelstein too. I will need you to come to the
oh,
front of the church
I
too.
did not hear about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because this is the reason why I look at white leftists
Yeah,
sideways, and that's
yeah.
why I don't like y'all a lot. I don't like a lot of y'all
Mhm.
because Norm, before Norm became this person of great renown on Israel Palestine, he's been a lot of times downplaying and degrading uh black
Oh, yeah,
studies,
yeah.
and he likes to call and he feels like he has the right to call black people the N word in Yiddish, and that's not okay.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah, it's like I'm so glad that I never will be in a room with Norm, because if he ever was to do that, because I'm fluent in Yiddish, if he was to say something like that, I would. We
Yeah.
would have. But anyway, that's a different conversation. That's for our quick hits in another segment that we will be
Speech is
doing.
free, but it has
Yeah,
consequences.
you know what I'm saying? Just like prescription drugs, results will vary.
Yeah.
So we will talk another time. I gotta go.
All right. Okay.
I holla at you.
All right. Everybody out there, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep on fighting for that revolution solution. If you're listening on the radio, stay tuned. Electropop therapy is next.